Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon or morning, wherever you may be. Welcome to the webinar. This webinar today is called How a Corporation is Structured. We're going to get started on that in just a minute, and I just have a couple quick announcements for you here at the top. First of all, we are recording this webinar, as we always do, so if you miss anything, if you have to leave early, we will be sending out a recording to everyone who's registered, and you'll be receiving that in an email tomorrow. So you'll have as many opportunities as you need to go back and check anything that you missed or want to catch up on. We also will be setting aside time today for Q&A. So when Mike is done presenting the material, if you have any questions, you can chat them in. You can also send in your questions all during the webinar while we're going, and if he can, he'll answer your questions on the fly like that. But we welcome any questions you might have, and we're happy to get you the best answer that we can. We'll also let you know at the end of the webinar about our next webinar, which is in May. It's about franchise tax for LLC companies. So stay tuned for that information. And just as we get started, I just want to let you know that the material that we're presenting here is focused on the state of Delaware. We are specialists for Delaware formations. You obviously can incorporate in any state, but this is our specialty, and it's really the top choice for many people. So the material that we're talking about today is kind of focused on Delaware itself. So a little bit about us as a company. Harvard Business Services was founded in 1981 in Wilmington, Delaware by Rick Bell, who can be seen on the left in that photo there. We're now located in Lewis, Delaware, which is a little bit further south, but we're still here in our home state. The company is family owned and operated. Mike Bell, who's going to be presenting here to you in a moment, was named the president of the company this past January. As a company, we've formed over 150,000 companies. We have over 75,000 current clients worldwide. So we are working with people from all sorts of different places to create their companies, to do all sorts of different business. We are Delaware registered agents and formation specialists. That's kind of the core of our business. We're very customer focused. We offer free lifetime support, low prices. Our staff is very friendly. They spend all day answering questions from our clients and other people who are interested in potentially starting a company. There's always a lot of questions out there, so that's what they welcome, that's what they do. So always feel free to get in touch with us for any questions you may have. I do want to point out that we are not attorneys and we're not accountants, so this material should not be taken as legal or accounting advice. And finally, we have no affiliation with Harvard University. We're a completely separate entity from them. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Mike, and he's going to take you through the structure of a corporation.
All right, so thank you for joining our webinar today. If anybody out there wants to let us know where you're tuning in from, we always like to hear where our guests are listening to from. I'm the president of the company. I'm going to go through what the different types of companies, who is who in the company, talking about franchise tax, talking about stock, talking about par value, talking about different types of tax statuses for your entity and how to form a corporation. So the first thing that I'm going to start with is the different types of corporations. So there are 4 types of corporations. There's a general corporation, a closed corporation, a nonprofit corporation, and a public benefit corporation. General corporation is by far the most popular type of corporation that is formed. It is basic for-profit corporation structure where shareholders can buy and sell shares of stock to show ownership in the company. You then have directors and officers that are chosen to manage the company. So the general corporation is typically used for people, for companies that want to transact business globally, want to purchase other companies, want to bring in investors, and companies that are looking to go public. A closed corporation is shareholders, directors, and officers are typically the same people and desire to remain a small, tight-knit group. So you're restricted to no more than 30 shareholders. The closed corporation is typically used for small, tight-knit groups like a mom-and-pop store or a very small family-owned business where you're not going to be, you're just going to keep it within the family, and it's a very small company. Nonprofit corporation is income left after the payment of day-to-day operations must be utilized to further the mission of the nonprofit organization and not transferred to any shareholders. Nonprofit status must be approved by the IRS. So the nonprofit corporation is typically used for homeowners associations or nonprofit organizations, foundations that are looking to do something for a good cause. And they are taking in donations to help their organization provide their mission as a company. Public benefit corporation is a newly popular type of entity. It's a for-profit entity similar to a general corporation, but declares a benevolent cause it will benefit. This enables the corporation to give money to its cause without violating its duty to maximize shareholder value. We do put this benefit cause into your certificate of corporation. So basically what it is you're bringing in money and then as a for-profit entity, and then you're giving money to benefit the cause of, say you love elephants and you want to save elephants, so you give a portion of your profit to the organization that is out there saving elephants around the world. So that's just an example of what a public benefit corporation might be used for. So those are the four types of entities or four types of corporations. Next, we're going to talk about tax status for a corporation. There's typically three types of tax status for a corporation. The default tax status for a corporation when you form it is called a C Corp. The company is taxed at two levels. It's taxed at a corporation level and then taxed at a shareholder level. So the business profits are taxed at the corporate rate, dividends taxed on individual tax returns if distributed. The C Corp is obviously ideal for raising capital. The S Corp is elected by filing one additional form through the IRS called Form 2553. It allows for pass-through taxation, so business profits are taxed only once and at the individual rate. The only thing is there are some disadvantages to being an S Corp. Shareholders must be U.S. citizens or residents, and you're restricted to no more than 100 and I believe it's 100 shareholders. So there is some benefits to both, but if it is best to speak with an accountant for which tax status makes best sense for your company. To the other tax status that is used, but this is for nonprofit organizations that are looking to become 501c3 or 501c status. It's an additional filing where you file Form 1023. It exempts from federal income tax and requires a qualified charitable or religious mission and a specific non-stock structure. So those are the basic breakdown of the different tax statuses for a corporation. But again, to determine whether you should be taxed as a C Corp or taxed as an S Corp or taxed as an exempt corporation / nonprofit, it is best to speak with an accountant to help make the best decision for your company. Okay, so another thing that is very important when you have a corporation is having corporate bylaws. So think of the corporate bylaws as the constitution for the company. It's going to help to show who is who in the company, who owns what in the company, and how the company is run on a daily basis. So they are created internally and amended as needed by shareholders and or directors of the corporation. You are not required to speak to the state of Delaware or to Harvard Business Services when making changes to your bylaws or when you are creating your bylaws. It's an internal document and it's typically kept on file at all times within the company. It basically, as I said, it defines policy and procedures for various company activities such as board membership and meeting requirements, titles of officers that will manage the day-to-day operations, percentage of shareholders required to approve specific actions, who owns shares of stock and the percentage of ownership, who are the board of directors. These corporate bylaws are very important to have on file with your company at all times. We do offer a boilerplate template to customize to your company, you can tailor it however you would like. It's not required to be translated into English. It can be in your native language, so that's another nice feature about the bylaws. Many clients may often work with an attorney to make sure that everything is done accurately and correctly, but we do offer a boilerplate template that you can use via our website to put those bylaws together. But we stress that it's very important to have these bylaws because in case there is a conflict within the company between two owners as partners, it's best to have things in writing just in case those things pop up. It's also best in case there are lawsuits that are presented against the company. And you may need to provide these corporate bylaws to people that you're doing business with, or to banks, or to attorneys, or, there's many different reasons that you might need the corporate bylaws, so it's always very important to have these bylaws on file at all times internally within the company. So now that we've gone a little bit into the corporate bylaws, I'm going to talk more about who the three tiers of power in a corporation, so that you guys kind of understand what the difference is between each tier of power in the company. So the shareholders are the owners of the company. The directors run the company and are responsible for the company's overall management. The officers carry out the board of directors' decisions and handle the day-to-day management of the company. And normally what we see, because a lot of our clients are very small entities or they are just entrepreneurs that are starting up, the same individual can hold all company positions and be the sole owner of the company. So it's not uncommon for us to see one person be the shareholder, the director, and the officer until you formally your business grows, and then as your business grows, you might bring on more owners in the company and more directors and other officers. So these are the three key tiers of power, and one person can hold all company positions, and you can have as many officers and directors and shareholders in the company that you would like. So I'm going to go into a little more in-depth about each tier of power. So the shareholders, as I said, are the owners of the company, but they do not manage the company. Typically, holders of common stock and have the right to one vote for each share they own to elect the board of directors. The shareholders' vote are important company matters, such as electing new directors and officers to run the company. A corporation can have one shareholder with 100% ownership or many shareholders with varying percentages of ownership. So that's basically what a shareholder does for the company. A directors run the company and are responsible for all major business decisions, such as the issuance of stock, the election of officers, the hiring of key management, the establishment of corporate policies, setting of salaries for key officers and compensation packages. The directors discuss and vote on company management issues during board meetings, and their overall fiduciary responsibility is to act in the best interest of the company and its shareholders above their own interest. So the directors play a very key role in the direction of the company as they run the company. The officers work for the board of directors and handle the day-to-day operations of the company. Officers carry out the board's decision and implement policy as determined by the board. Typical titles for officers can be president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, but you can also have other officers in the company with different titles that is determined by the board. So if you have a big company and you want to name someone the director of marketing, or you want to name them the vice president of sales, or things of that nature, you can provide other titles, but those are the generic titles that you would typically use. All right, so now that we've talked a little bit about the corporation and the tiers of power and who's who in the company, I'm going to talk a little bit more about shares of stock, because shares of stock are involved in a corporation, and the shares of stock help to show ownership in the company. So the shares of stock is created when a company first incorporates. The number of authorized shares of stock represent ownership of the corporation. So ownership to shareholders is received through stock certificates. Stock certificate is a paper document that records how many shares of stock that you own, and it's kept on file within the company. The stock can be bought and sold for whatever the market may bear, with certain restrictions. And the number of authorized shares also determines the corporation's Delaware franchise tax. I'm going to go into a little bit more about how many shares of stock you should authorize, but we do have a previous webinar that really helps you to understand corporation franchise tax, so that you know the difference between what a minimum stock company is and what a maximum stock company is, and really helps to show you how much your franchise tax would be based upon the number of authorized shares that you have in your corporation. So the next slide talks about the different classes of stock. There's generally the most common type of class of stock is common stock. Common stock shares entitle shareholders to 1 vote per share. If you want to have additional classes of stock, corporations can have additional classes, which are called preferred stock for different purposes, such as seeking additional investment without giving up control of the company. Delaware's preferred stock is so powerful and flexible, it is commonly called blank check preferred stock. And we have a number of places on our website that provide great information about what is the difference between preferred stock and common stock, and what is preferred stock. So there's a lot of great information that we have that you can see here. We have 2 links that link you to 2 great articles on our website that will provide you more information about what is common stock and what is preferred stock. You can't put different classes of stock when you form the company on our website, but if you give us a call and you let us know that you need different classes of stock, we can do that all for you right over the phone. Keep in mind that there is additional fees with regards to having different classes of stock, but we can walk you through that process and help you answer your questions with regards to that if you're interested in having different classes of stock. As I was saying, we're going to talk about how many shares of common stock you should get when you incorporate your business. Since your Delaware franchise tax is based on the number of authorized shares and the par value, it is typically best to keep both of these as low as possible. Initially, when most companies start out, they start out with 1,500 authorized shares of stock with either a penny par value or no par value. This will keep you within the minimum annual Delaware franchise tax and filing fees per year. For a minimum stock company that has 0 to 5,000 authorized shares, your franchise tax here in Delaware is going to be $175, plus your $50 annual report fee brings it to $225 per year. Whereas if you have 5,001 or more authorized shares, you're considered a maximum stock company here in Delaware. And there are two ways to calculate your franchise tax for a maximum stock company. It's either through the authorized shares method or the assumed par value capital method. Once you provide certain figures, we can recalculate your franchise tax in the state of Delaware to the lowest amount. The minimum for a maximum franchise, the minimum fee franchise tax for a maximum stock company is $400, and the maximum is $200,000. So it can range from $400 to $200,000. So it's important that you provide those figures so we can recalculate it. We have a lot more information about that in the previous webinar, as well as on our website. And if you have questions, you can contact our office, and we'll be happy to answer any and all questions that you have. So, as I said, it's best to typically keep your authorized shares of stock very low and the par value low. If you do need to increase your shares of stock and the par value at another time, it can always be done through a stock amendment. And you can file as many stock amendments as you want with the state of Delaware. So Delaware is home to 66% of the Fortune 500 companies, and they are always doing stock amendments to add more stock into their companies. So Delaware always is, it's very easy to make any kind of amendment to your company with the state of Delaware. So we talked about the number of shares. Now I'm going to talk about par value. So when authorizing the shares of stock, the corporation must declare a par value for the shares of stock. It is best to keep this as low as possible in order to qualify for the lowest initial Delaware franchise tax. You can choose any par value you wish, but you have to be aware that the chosen value will affect several aspects of the entity, including taxes, equity, capital, and ownership. Most companies choose a very low par value in the beginning, such as a penny par value. It can even go down to the fraction of a cent, such as 0.000001. The par value has no relation to the market value or the stock price, except that you cannot sell the shares of stock for less than the par value. And I don't know why you would want to sell your shares of stock less than a zero par value, because then that would be a negative value. So you want to keep that as low as possible, but do keep in mind when you get to a certain threshold with the number of authorized shares, there is a certain par value that you have to have so that your equity remains within the threshold of the 75,000 and things of that nature. So there's a lot that has to be looked into when determining the par value and the number of authorized shares of stock in the company. So the way that the transferring of stock is held within the company is through a stock transfer ledger. It records the name of the stockholder, the place of their residence, the issue date, the number of certificates that they own, the number of shares, for who the shares were transferred, the amount that they were paid for, things of that nature. So the stock transfer ledger is also very important along with the stock certificate, because it helps to keep the exact information within the company of when you distributed stock and how much you distributed it for, and how many shares they got and things of that nature. So the stock transfer ledger is included in our deluxe corporate kit binder, which is part of our standard formation package, and it's a very useful tool that will have your boilerplate template for bylaws. It will have stock certificates. It will have stock transfer ledger, and it will have a company handheld seal, and a lot of other useful documents for the company to help manage it day to day and year to year that is important to the company. All right, so if you are seeking investors, while you may be able to raise capital for any business type, most serious investors will only invest in a Delaware general corporation because investors insist on Delaware companies because of its corporate law structure. So Delaware offers the strongest corporate law structure to help the individuals behind the company. So if there was a lawsuit presented against your company, we would go before a judge in the state of Delaware versus other states you would go before a jury. So the judge is going to make an expedited decision, and he's going to make the decision that's in the best interest of the owners for the company, because Delaware has a body of body of laws that has been redefined over the years to help protect the individuals behind the company to the fullest extent of the law. So it is, vitally important that if you are looking to bring in investors and looking to go public with your company, that you consider Delaware the home of your corporation. And you don't need to physically live here in the state of Delaware. You don't need to visit the state of Delaware. All you need to form a company here in the state of Delaware is just a Delaware registered agent. And that's what we do here at Harbor Business Services. We walk you through the entire process, help you form the company, prepare the documents, file them with the state of Delaware, and then help you maintain the life of your company throughout the life of it here. So it's very vitally important to have a registered agent, and it is required by law in the state of Delaware. And if you're looking to bring in investors, Delaware is definitely the state that you want to consider. So now we're going to talk about how easy it is to form a company here in the state of Delaware. As I said, anyone, anywhere in the world can incorporate a company here in Delaware, and you don't need to live in the state or visit the state of Delaware. You don't need to have your bank account here. You don't need to have a physical office location here. All you need, as I said, is just a registered agent. So in order for us to form a Delaware corporation for you, we require just some basic, simple information, and it can all be done online, and it can all be done over the phone. We can do it via live chat. We can do it via email. So we have a lot of different ways that we communicate with our clients and potential clients. So the hardest question we're going to ask you is the name of the company. Once we know that the name is available here in the state of Delaware, we then are all set and ready to go. We need somebody with whom we can speak with at all times with regards to the company. We call that a communications contact person. It does need to be a person that is available by phone during normal business hours and is at least 18 years of age and has a physical street address where they can receive pieces of mail. The street address can be anywhere in the world because it's only for our records so that we can get in contact with you. So that's for us to send your annual registered agent notices and annual franchise tax notices too. The other thing that we require when we form a company here in Delaware is we require the name of the directors of who we are releasing the company to. We only need one director to form the company, but you can give us as many names as you would like. Once we release the corporation to the initial directors, you will then elect who is who in the company through the corporate bylaws. We don't need to know who is who at the beginning of for the formation of the company. This is just for us as the incorporator to release the company to the initial directors until you actually elect who is who in the company through the corporate bylaws. The other thing we will need to know, as we spoke about earlier, is the amount of authorized shares of stock and the par value. And then after that, all we need is basic billing information, your method of payment. We accept all major credit cards. We can do PayPal. We can do electronic check. We can do a number of different ways to accept payment. We try to make it very simple and easy for you to easily form a company here in Delaware, and then go out there and do what you do best. So that's just basically how easy it is to form a company. The next question we get is, well, what's the cost to form a company? Well, I can tell you it's a lot less expensive than using an attorney. We offer 3 packages that you can choose from. All of our packages include the Delaware state filing fee and the first year of registered agent service. It also includes a very cool digital company seal that you can place on any document. Every year thereafter, our Delaware registered agent fee is $50, and it's guaranteed never to increase. It's never increased since 1981. The tax ID number is an addition to the formation package. So if you have a U.S. Social Security number and you have a U.S. address, we charge $65 to obtain the tax ID number. If you do not have a U.S. Social Security number nor a U.S. address, the tax ID number or the tax ID service is $95 additional. And a lot of other people ask, well, is the Delaware franchise tax included in our formation packages? And the answer to that question is no. The Delaware franchise tax for a corporation is due every year on March 1st, and you don't pay that until the next year. So if you form your company here in 2019, your 2019 Delaware franchise tax for the corporation is not due until March 1st, 2020. And as your registered agent, we do send out notices well in advance to give you ample time to make payment arrangements. As that's part of our requirement as the Delaware registered agent, and we make sure that you get your notices by email and by mail, or whatever your preference may be. So the green package starts out at $179. This is our most bare bones package. Everything is sent to you by email. Nothing is sent by hard copy. The reason we can send everything by email is Delaware all Delaware documents are done electronically and done in black and white. So the email copy is just as good as the hard copy. So the green package is a great package if you're just looking to get the bare bones, just the documents and the registered agent service, and don't need anything else. That's $179. We then have our basic package, which is a step up from that, $229 if we're sending it to anywhere in the U.S., $350 if we're sending it outside the U.S. to any other country. It includes everything that's included in the green package. There's just an additional everything. We provide you digital documents. The international package includes apostille if you require that, whereas domestic packages do not include apostille. The most popular package is the standard package, as it includes everything that you need to help maintain the life of your company. It's $329 for domestic and $450 for international. And that package is the one that includes the corporate kit finder that is very helpful to help you organize and maintain the life of your company. All right, so that's basically my part of the webinar. I'm going to turn it back over to Michael to talk a little bit more about Harvard Business Services and who we are, and we'll then jump into your questions if you have any questions. So thank you for attending today's webinar.
Thanks, Mike. And as he said, if you do have questions, please go ahead and send them in. We have a couple to get to right now. So we will have plenty of time if you do have a question, and if not, we can maybe wrap things up a little bit early. But before we get to that, just a couple of notes about why you might want to choose Harvard Business Services. As we pointed out, we've been around since 1981, almost 40 years old as a company. Family owned and operated. We offer free lifetime customer support. You never will be charged for asking a question, never be turned away for asking a question. So, that's a real benefit that we take a lot of pride in. We have same-day filing service, low formation prices. As Mike pointed out, our registered agent fee has not changed since the company started. And we have really, really strong ratings on Better Business Bureau and on Trustpilot. More important than just saying that we have good ratings, you'll notice that our ratings are significantly higher than many of our competitors, some of whom you may have heard of. And if you want to go on the sites and just try to do a little comparison shopping, we welcome you to do that, and we're confident that you'll see that we're probably the ideal choice there. And these are the different ways that you can contact us if you need to form a company, ask any questions. We're available by phone, by email. We have the live chat feature on our website, and we can also connect to Skype if that is the easiest for you. So we're happy to take your questions and calls whenever you have them. And finally, we do have a blog, which many of you might be subscribed to already. If not, this will show you how to get to it on our website. We send out one email per week. If you sign up now, you'll probably be on our list for tomorrow's weekly email. We send out educational news and content that we're publishing on our site each week. We don't spam you. We don't send you a ton of emails for any other reason, and we don't share or sell your information to other companies for any reason. So if you're interested in getting regular content from us, please go ahead and subscribe to that there. And we can jump into our questions now. So once again, if you have any, please go ahead and send them in, and I'm going to just get started with a couple that we have here. So Mike, if a corporation wanted to offer an IPO, how do they do that?
So if you wanted to offer an initial public offering, which is with a corporation, there's a number of steps that you kind of have to go through. And we don't get involved in helping you become do a public offering, but there are many attorneys out there that can help assist you with providing the necessary information to become a stock, a New York Stock Exchange company and things of that nature.
Okay, great. And what happens when a corporation changes its directors or its officers? Are they required to file anything with the state of Delaware or with the IRS to note those changes?
No. When you're changing officers, shareholders, or directors in a corporation, there's nothing that is required to be disclosed with the state of Delaware or nor Harvard Business Services, and nothing that's required to be to do with the IRS. It's all done through your corporate bylaws. The only thing that you need to do is if you have filed your annual report with the state of Delaware is filing an amended report, but you generally don't have to do that until you refile your franchise tax when it comes due. So there's nothing publicly that you have to do with the state of Delaware or the Harvard Business Services.
Okay. So this question from our audience is, can an LLC owned by non-U.S. citizens and operating outside the United States offer units to the public without an SEC filing or registration?
So that's a very good question. Unfortunately, That question is a bit out of the realm of my expertise. I would imagine that you can, but it's it's unfortunately not a question that I can provide a detailed answer for.
Okay, and that same person had a follow-up question, and maybe this is the same response, but can that same LLC bind its units to a blockchain token and offer it to the public as long as they're not U.S. citizens?
Yeah, again, those are great questions, but those are questions that are out of the realm of my expertise, and it would be best to speak to an attorney for additional information on those topics.
Okay. Another question that came in, what are the pre and post requirements for issuing a convertible note round?
So a convertible note is, wow, these are great questions, guys. They're unfortunately a little bit out of the realm of our expertise and who we are. We don't get involved in the convertible notes for the issuing of stock and things of that nature. These are really matters that are internally held within the company. So for any pre and post requirements for issuing a convertible note, you definitely want to speak to your attorney for more information on that.
Okay, and are there any obligations for annual General Assembly meetings or registers? I'm not sure what that means, but.
So if you're talking about holding annual meetings and minutes, no, there is no general requirements on when they are held. They are held at the discretion of the shareholders and directors, and you can have as many annual minutes or annual meetings that you would like, and that's just determined internally within the company.
All right. And I think that is all the questions that we have. So we have a little extra time here that you can have back for your day, and thank you all for joining us. I do want to just point out one last thing before we sign off, which is that our next webinar will be May 29th at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So whatever time this webinar was for you today, it's an hour earlier next time. And you can register at this link, which will also be in the follow-up email that you get tomorrow, along with the recording. We do have one more question here. One more question just came in, so we'll touch on this and then we'll sign off. I recently paid a franchise tax through Harvard Business Services. Is the LLC, which is fully owned by non-U.S. and operates outside the United States, paying tax besides the franchise tax?
So if you are a non-U.S. citizen with a non-U.S. source of income, you're generally not going to pay income tax here in the United States. There are many different variables with regards to the tax, income tax in the state of Delaware. So generally, if you are not physically operating here in the state of Delaware, you are typically only going to pay the annual franchise tax and the annual registered agent fee. But if you have income within the United States, you'll want to speak with an accountant who can provide you more information on what United States taxes you may be subject to.
Okay. And one more follow-up from that person. What do I need to do to allow U.S. investors to invest in the LLC?
Generally, it depends on where the company is formed, but you'll want to consider it being a United States company. And there's a lot of other variables that may be there too. So these are a lot of great questions that you have, but they are definitely questions that you'll want to present to an attorney and ask them to can give you specific answers on that.
All right. And thank you to everyone who sent in questions. These were good questions here at the end, and hopefully they gave you the information along with the rest of the webinar that you're looking for. And as always, we are always willing to answer other questions that you might have. If you want to just give us a call or catch us on the live chat, we look forward to speaking with you, and have a great rest of your day.